This week's words for reflection are from the poet Janice Ray. I would not have seen the web a spider strung between us and sky, except the sun crested the cliff along the Bay of Fundy. Finally, our long night beside Mill Creek was over. I greeted the light. A shimmer is not the moonblade, not the disk of sun plating the tips of red spruce silver. So much depends on where one looks, upward and when. So much is happenstance, accident, grace. Too often, the little voices that say, see, and there, are silent. But I see the web, nothing more than another life noticed, which is our job while we're here. Notice how quickly the bay recedes, abandoning more of its red-pebbled beach, leaving rocks blanketed with orange seaweed. Notice how, back along the cliff, white asters with gold discs bloom in pockets of loose mineral, and the strange branched millweed hangs with fritillaries.
The most important things in my life aren't things. They are beings. This is my wife Lucinda and my dog Lufa. And I also value my commitment to social justice. The rest of my family, my friends, these are the things that are important to me. What's important to you? Seriously, what's important to you? Raise your hand or yell it out. What? Family. What else? Friends. What? Nature. Music. Learning. What? Health. Community. Curiosity. I didn't hear you in the being kind. Justice. All forms of art. What? Living. All right. What? Positivity. Good. All right. Any last burning? Compassion. Learning. So, thank you. I love these two, and I've been seeing less of them this last year and a half as I'm in the Boston University School of Theology. And I'm here in this internship this fall. I work here, many of you know, Sundays through Tuesdays. We have staff meeting on Tuesdays, and from the staff meeting, I go directly to my Hebrew Bible class at Boston University. I have classes on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. My last class on Thursday ends at 9:15 p.m. And then I write my papers and do my readings on Friday and Saturday, which brings me to Sunday. Now you'll notice there's no weekend in that picture, no days off. That leaves very little time for Lucinda and Lufa, very little time for art, for positivity, kindness, curiosity, health, music, nature, community. But I make it work in my life. We have made it work in our lives. We have a time theme, as you've noticed, for the sermon and for today. And please, if you can, see the cake that Carol had made. It is really beautiful. Thank you for doing that. So both Lucinda and I, our favorite time is the morning time. I know a lot of partners, like one's a morning person and one's not. But for her and I, we are both morning people. And we didn't figure this out until this past week, because for up until last week, our time together was at night when we were both exhausted and like, oh, I love you. And, so it's not exactly quality time. So now that we've figured this out, Lufa likes 3 walks a day, including one in the morning. So we try to do the walk in the morning with her. So we have this wonderful time, and if it's nice weather like today, like the UU hikers got their good weather for their hike, we will take a walk by the river and have it be quality time. Try to make something out of the little time that we have. And I know that, like, there are no human children in that picture, so for all of you that have human children are like, you have all the time in the world. Yes, you are. Okay. So my schedule also leaves very little time for my own Sabbath practices. For many of you here, this is your Sabbath practice, but for me, I'm working. And there's some of this that functions as Sabbath for me, specifically listening to the choir. But a lot of time I have to be focused on what I'm about to say, and it's just different than when you're down there. And ironically, Boston University requires that I spend 2 hours per week on my Sabbath practice when I'm in this internship. And they brought a guest speaker in to our class that I have to take as part of this internship, Dr. Holly Benson-Haber, to talk about Sabbath practices. And so that day I was all ready to feel bad about my lack of Sabbath practices, but Dr. Holly brought a list of 40 different things that count as Sabbath practices. So I thought I was doing terribly, but really, some of it was what you said: walking in nature, social justice in the public square, having compassion, random acts of kindness. And so she told us to pick 4 or 5 of our favorite ones from the list. I picked 15. And now each week I take, for example, a contemplative walk in that graveyard behind us where we're going to put the flags later today. I come into the sanctuary when no one else is here, and I pray. I'm a praying UU. I pray right there, down where that little jutty out wood is. I speak with my ancestors, especially my maternal grandmother, who is represented by her ring that I had resized to fit me. For many people, Sabbath is on a particular day of the week, but for me, my Sabbath practices are almost every day. And some of you actually get my weekly email what my Sabbath practices are to help hold me accountable to my 2 hours per week. Oh, I have that large singing bowl is in my office, so I can do the singing bowl as a Sabbath practice as well. My practices help me focus on what's important, and they help me stay in the present moment. They help me realize that we are here right now in this sanctuary. We are committed to each other. We're committed to making the world better. They help me remember positivity, art, justice, music, health, curiosity. The Unitarian Universalist minister, Mark Morrison Reed, said that the central task of religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice, says Mark Morrison Reed. But when we forget what's important, or when we're made to forget what's important, we can lose sight of our connection to one another and to the world. In the book Sparks of Wonder, it tells us that evil is what happens when we forget we're connected. We forget that we're responsible for one another. This disconnection and this distraction can be accidental. We go out to our car and there's a tree branch on it or a flat tire. But even then, we have a choice on how to respond, because we still are connected to one another when bad things happen. One might even argue we are especially connected then. But the disconnection can also be purposeful. Some people get us elected by telling us what group of people is to blame for our problems. Some people get elected by telling us who took our jobs, who took our way of life. Reverend Sarah Scotchko from the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene, Oregon, asks us to consider why a person would create that kind of distraction. What's in it for them? She reminds us that this was practiced by tobacco companies, saying, as evidence mounted that cigarettes cause lung cancer, tobacco companies didn't so much seek to disprove the studies as they deliberately sowed doubts over whether the studies could be trusted. What was the methodology? Were they reasonable, claiming to be merely engaged in dialogue? And it was the same thing with oil companies and global warming. Scotchko says you can forestall real conversation for decades that way, but not forever. So, where'd my stone go? I had the stone. Oh. This stone really is in the shape of a heart, those of you can see. That was a nice unintentional side effect. So let's say that this stone represents what is important, represents this list of what you said. And let's say that if I'm a politician or oil company or tobacco company, my job is, in fact, misdirection, then I am trying to get you to focus on the thing I want you to focus on instead of what's important, the stone. It's here. It's here. How many of you hate when magicians reveal their tricks? Okay, so all of you should leave or something. Do this or something like that, because I'm actually going to teach you the trick. So I'm so sorry. And there's some wonderful worship associates who at this point have agreed to help, and they're going to pass out stones. You will get to keep the stone, so that's a consolation prize. Do you know what you can do? You can do this. You can just do this. Like for the next, you can still listen, but for the next probably 3 or 4 minutes, don't look. The stones are being handed out by our wonderful worship associates. Please give a round of applause for our worship associates. I wrote them, and I was like, help me hand out the stones. The trick is called sleight of hand, and the first step, those of you who have the stones, is hold the stone with your non-dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm holding it with my left hand. So hold it up like this, just like you're doing. Exactly. Cool. And the next step you're going to do is just draw your other hand over it, so like that. Just sort of sweep over it with your hand. Nice, very good. You're crossing your hands as you're doing this. Some of you are doing it from here. Cross your hands and then uncross them. Yes, just like that, exactly. Very good. And one more time. Very good, very cool. Stones are almost all passed out. Cross hands, swoop. Very nice, very good. This is the embodied part of the worship. I said it was multimedia. It's embodied worship right here. One more time, cross your hands, sweep over the thing. Exactly, very nice. I think almost everyone has the stone. So part 2 is you're going to let the stone drop into your fist. Good. And now do it again. Let it drop into the fist. Good, good, good. Just drop, just like that. Just close your fist around it. Exactly. Now put those two together. And as you're sweeping over it, yeah, you guessed it, it drops into the fist. Very nice. Your eyes are open. As you sweep it over, you drop your hand into the fist. Cool. Very good. Everybody got the stones? People are like, I didn't think I wanted a stone, but now I do. Over, one behind you. Cross arms, over, drop the foot. Good, good, good. Now's the most important part. Ready for this? The way a magician gets somebody to pay attention to what they want them to is by where you show your attention. So your attention is going to be on your dominant hand. This is going to be the most fascinating thing in the world is your dominant hand. Wherever that hand goes, you're going to look at it. And then you do the move, but you're going to look at that hand. You ready? Look at the hand. That's such a cool hand. Then people are going to be looking at this. You still got the stone over here, but people think it's here. That's the trick. So once again, cross your hands. Look at the hand. I'm not looking at you, so I don't see if you're doing it. So ready? Cross your hand. Look at the hand. No, don't look at me. Look at the hand. The hand. It's over there. One more time. And very nice. Okay. Well done. So this is the power of misdirection. This can fool us, but it's not as important as what is true. We'll have this as remember, this is what's true and what's real, this list that we made. So maybe this is too much, but I'm going to give you a quote from Howard Thurman, who the great Howard Thurman was the dean of Boston University Marsh Chapel. This quote about paying attention to what's true. So if you like, use my movements as I'm reading the quote from Howard Thurman. Thurman says, "How good it is to center down, to sit quietly and see oneself pass by. The streets of our minds seethe with endless traffic, with our spirits resound with clashings, with noisy silences, while something deep within hungers and thirsts for the still moment and the resting lull. With full intensity we seek, ere the quiet passes, a fresh sense of order in our living, a direction, a strong, sure purpose that will structure our confusion and bring meaning in our chaos. We look at ourselves in this waiting moment, the kinds of people we are. The questions persist. What are we doing with our lives? What are the motives that order our days? What is the end of our doings? Where are we trying to go? Where do we put the emphasis? And where are our values focused? For what end do we make sacrifices? Where is my treasure? And what do I love most in life? What do I hate most in life? And to what am I true? Over and over, the questions beat in upon the waiting moment. And as we listen, floating up through these jangling echoes of our turbulence, there is a sound of another kind, a deeper note, which only the stillness of the heart makes clear. It moves directly to the core of our being. Our questions are answered, our spirits refreshed, and we move back into the traffic of our daily round with the peace of the eternal in our step. How good it is to center down. Words of Howard Thurman. So I'm going to ask you a favor. Bring this stone home with you. Put it somewhere where you'll remember it, where you'll see it, where you'll run into it, like on your computer monitor or someplace like that. And if, like me, you get overwhelmed sometimes, if, like me, you get misdirected, distracted, if, like me, things get hard and you feel all alone, look at the stone. Remember this moment right now in this sanctuary. Remember that you're not alone. Remember that we have each other. When I'm overwhelmed, I seek inspiration from feminist women like Alice Walker, the author of The Color Purple. And in her book called Everything We Love Can Be Saved, Walker uses the stone as a metaphor as well for what's important. She says, "It has become a common feeling, I believe, as we have watched our heroes falling over the years, that our own small stone of activism, which might not seem to measure up to the rugged boulders of heroism, is a paltry offering toward the building of an edifice of hope. So many who believe this choose to withhold their offerings out of shame. This is the tragedy of our world," says Alice Walker, "for we can do nothing substantial toward changing our course on the planet, a destructive one, without rousing ourselves, individual by individual, and bringing our small, imperfect stones to the pile. Sometimes our stones are, to us, misshapen, odd. Their color seems off. They're singing, comical, and strange. Presenting them, we perceive our own imperfect nakedness, but also, paradoxically, the wholeness, the rightness of it. In the collective vulnerability of presence, we learn not to be afraid. Even the smallest stone glistens with tears. says Alice Walker, but also from the light of being seen and loved for simply being there. So let us remember that our own small stone, what we bring to the world, is a blessing. Let us make time in our busy schedules to pay attention to what's important. And let us stay connected. For if I stay connected with you, I know I can go on. Amen, and blessed be.